Okay, so hopefully everyone's settled in now. As I said, you have to use the app to get to ask a question, so make sure you do download the app and that you've got Slido on your in front of you so you can then flip a question up. Otherwise, we won't be putting a roving mic around because there's too many people in the room. So we are going to keep with the podcast theme for the next session. The next session is actually a live broadcast of the shiny new Object Tech podcast. So we're actually going to live record and broadcast this. So that's why we're just setting up the podcast kind of technology, which I think is now ready to go, which is fabulous. So I'm going to hand over to Tom Ollerton for this session. And it's going to be a session talking to Tony Holdway from Domino. So over to you. Hello, sir. How are you?
Morning.
How's it going, fella? You all right?
Very good.
So I thought this was going to be a really good idea.
You done one of these before?
I have done podcasts before, but never on stage in front of like 1 million people.
Live,
and now completely shitting myself. But hey, well, it's fine. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, I do a podcast every week called the Shiny New Object Podcast, which is a podcast about new marketing technology. And we're just going to record that now. So, hi, my name is Tom Ollerton, and this is the Shiny New Object Podcast. Each week, I get to interview someone interesting, inspiring, entertaining about their favorite new bit of marketing tech, and this week is no different. We have Tony Holdway from Domino's. So, for people, actually, we need to prove that we're live. Can you guys just say hello really loudly? 1, 2, 3. I think that did it. Nice one. We need to get
selfie.
We need to get a selfie. Yeah. Otherwise, I get in trouble with the drum. Right. Okay. So, Tony, for people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you just give us a little quick overview?
Yeah, I'm sales and marketing director at Domino's for the UK and Ireland, and been there 2.5 years. And prior to that, I spent the rest of my life in retail, over 30 years. So. My CV's looking increasingly scarred, I think it's fair to say, by sort of the high street and retail events. So Woolies and BHS are clearly no more. Mothercare and House of Fraser are sort of in A&E, and the strong brands are sort of Wickes, Shop Direct, and Smiths. It's changed a bit since I was there, but those are the profitable businesses. But the high street's a changed place. I'm now with Domino's.
So you've got a habit of finishing off businesses, is that what
This could be my toughest challenge with Domino's, a global business in 32 countries. But no, I think I've been lucky to be at Domino's because it's sort of like retail, which I've worked in for all my life, but it's not like retail. Clearly, it's got that customer-facing store frontage, but backed up by a very digital and online business.
Indeed, right. So as is customary on the podcast, we have like a little section where we kind of get to know you better.
Right.
So I'm going to just pop some questions at you. So what is the marketing book that you recommend or buy for people most often?
I got to be honest, I don't really read books. And if I do, I struggle to get through them. And I probably have a short attention span that means that I get distracted and don't finish the book. I love journalism and articles, and I guess I learn most about marketing from reading articles and insights, and then I think I've so got in over the last few years to Twitter and social media, because again it's short form ways of learning and hints and tips and things that are happening, and a book seems to focus on one topic, and you can just flit about between stuff with articles and on social.
And where specifically do you go online for this stuff? Do you have like key titles that you read or key people you follow?
I set up a load of searches in Google, so it'll bring back stuff and remind me of stuff. But yes, I suppose, anybody on Twitter, you're effectively curating your own newsfeed, aren't you? And you're picking off people who you find inspiring or might have said something really smart or insightful, and then following them and working from there.
So I'm kind of want to go in a bit of detail about your process, right? So you're a busy guy. You got plates to spin, right? I know this. So how do you fit that in? Do you go, right, I'm going to read online stuff for half an hour in the morning, or do you just do it through the day, or is it lunchtime thing? Tell me how that works on a day-to-day basis.
I think social media is brilliant in terms of being able to take you away from what's in front of you, and I think so definitely on the way to work. If particularly commuting on the train or going home. But also, I think points during the day where you just need a break from what you're doing, and dipping into social media is, I think, a fantastic way of switching off. But you'll probably learn something at the same time.
So, slightly different question. What has been the biggest work fuck up where you've gone, oh, massive facepalm, but you're so glad you made that mistake, and you look back on it and think, if I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't have got to where I am now?
Well, I think from the outside, going to BHS was probably my biggest fuck up. I think I knew what I was getting into, but then once you get there, you go, wow, you know. But then I look back so fondly, back to your question, I think I looked back and thought I could see the business from the inside. I'd worked in fashion, I'd worked in department stores, you know, pretty savvy online in terms of digital trading, and I thought I had the tools that could help that brand and help that business. But actually, clearly there were wider financial issues at place. But I look back, and actually the fondness of even the last 6 months working with the team, working with the people, their passion for the brand, I look back on it so favourably. And people said to me even before I went there, it's fairly obvious that if the BHS does go down, it's fairly obvious you won't have taken it down in 6 months. So I learnt so much, because a lot of the meetings were so different to normality, because you were on a precipice, because you were down a barrel on cash-wise. You just had to look at every last penny and scour through stuff to try and make the business, I won't say more profitable, try and make it profitable. So it's just a fascinating few months I had.
And so what specifically have you taken from that experience into Domino's now, that sort of end of a barrel or, you know, last minute situation? How do you take what you've learned and apply that to a really thriving, succtive business like
I think,
Domino's?
so many things, but I think, you know, you create a powerful brand, create a powerful long-term brand, have a greater percentage of spend into medium and long-term versus short-term, because, you know, arguably the issue with BHS beyond the underlying financials was it wasn't a brand anymore. I mean, historically it obviously was. People understood it from their childhood, but it had lost its brand touch and relevance, and that's tough to, you know, it lost it over a number of years, so that was tough to reverse. I think the other thing I'd take is just that discipline of looking at every penny, you know, just what I've said, going into the detail, and even in a brand that's successful, making sure every penny counts and you're getting return and you're placing each pound where it's going to best deliver profit-wise.
So on the subject of investment, in terms of your career, what has been your best investment of your time, your energy, or your money?
Definitely people, and it sounds so cheesy to say
Sounds pretty cheesy.
Is it cheesy?
Yeah, it's pretty cheesy.
But my team, I mean, look, unless you're a one-man band and you're doing everything in a business, which is unlikely, you're going to have to need people, be it those in your team or the extended team. You know, in this instance, people that work at Domino's, you're going to need them to help you and learn from them and try and influence what they're doing and try and improve what you're doing. So I think investment, you know, I learned at a young age where I'd just work a ferocious amount of hours, and then when I was very junior, and then when you rose up the ladder a bit, you realised that you could work longer and that might help you, but there was too much to do to try and do it all yourself, and you would have less impact if you behaved like that. So I think working with people and getting more out of them and learning from them and taking that into other scenarios, I think is the best use of my time.
So once again, kind of going into a bit more detail on that. So how do you invest the people at Domino's? I get that at a cheesy high level, that's fine. But how do you do that? Is that you spending as much time as you can with everyone, or is it investing massively in training? Just try and explain to the room how you do that.
Well, I think versus 10 years ago, definitely versus 20 years ago, I'm better at asking questions. I think I would think in my early days that I had the answer and I'd try and dictate the answer. And now there are numerous people in my team that are going to know much more about topics and be much better skilled at delivering the technicalities of all the marketing disciplines than me. I mean, I've got experience and I might have a view, but I'm better influencing by asking questions and probing, rather than saying, well, hold on a minute, I think you should be doing that. and dictating the play. I mean, if something blatantly obvious is going wrong, I'll change my tack. But I think by and large, working with people and probing in a nice way, so that they making them think a bit.
So a bit more philosophical here. In the last 5 years, which new belief or behaviour has improved the quality of your work life?
I think working less hours.
That's a great one.
And I don't mean sort of clocking in and clocking out, but I mean realising that because most of us, I'd hazard a guess, are in jobs where you could just carry on working. I mean, you could just go and then have a couple of hours sleep and go again. And I think there's a point where you just lose focus and lose. So I've just had to force myself on certain days to just cut off and say I'm going to go now, or stop.
So tell me more about that. So do you have like a time of day that you go, right, do you know what, fuck this, that's enough pizzas for the day, I'm going home?
No.
Or
Never.
Or is it an emotional state, or is it like you tell me how do you manage that time?
What I love about marketing and the digital space is the creative process, I suppose, is that, I will answer your question, sorry, but that is that expansion of ideas and then the contraction of them, as in, here's all the possibilities, and then now let's throw most of them out and bang, that's what we should do. So that process I love, and I think, I don't see myself as a creative, sorry, but I think in the creative space, I think you sort of, you have ups and downs, don't you? You can power through work sometimes in 2-3 hours, bang, and then other times you just, equivalent of writer's block, I guess. And so I think I've learned that I've learned to accept that, I suppose. I've learned to realise that may happen, and not fight it. If it's not working and I can't do something, I'd stop. Pick it up again later.
Right, and I've got a really tricky question for you, and then we'll get on to your shiny new object. So, it sounds really cheesy. We're both doing it. So, how do you want people to remember your career?
I don't.
You don't?
Well, no, but I don't think.
What do you mean?
No, but I mean, it's not.
Who was that guy? The CMA.
Look, all I'm trying to do, and anybody should be trying to do, is leave the brand in a better state than when you came. Stick to its roots and improve it and make it more exciting, appealing, and relevant. But I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to leave a legacy in terms of Tony Holdway. I hope my kids are proud of what I do and look back on what I've done, but not marketeers or the industry.
So we're at the halfway stage of the podcast, and what we do now is we talk about Tony's shiny new object, so his favourite new bit of marketing technology that he's super excited about. And so you've been doing a lot of stuff this year, and we're going to talk about the impact of artificial intelligence on creativity. So do you want to just tell us a bit about the areas that you've been focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the first thing to say probably is Domino's has always been a really innovative brand. I mean, way before, back to the 60s when it started in America. And I think that culture of innovating is definitely still there in the business, as in I felt it when I came in.
Weren't you the first pizza brand to do delivery?
Right. So Domino started.
Right?
There was no carry-out collection restaurant business that delivered in the world in the 60s. And Domino's opened 3 stores in Michigan and said, we're going to take these pizzas to your door, which I think blew people's minds. I mean, it's obvious now, and we accept it, don't we? But back then, that must have been like, wow. So yes, and then it just started innovating in loads of different ways. And digitally, it's been, it took a very early punt from a digital perspective, globally, and certainly in the UK. And so, the start point is Domino's embraces innovation, both from a customer-facing stuff, but also behind-the-scenes stuff that the customer can't see, to make sure that we improve the customer experience, customer journey, get pizza fresher, quicker, hotter, so that the end product is better.
So can you tell these guys, give an example of both, like a customer-facing innovation and a behind-the-scenes innovation?
Well, I think customer-facing would be what we're doing now, GPS-wise, so Uber style. But actually, you know where your pizza driver is. That's in 60% of the stores. Will be in all the stores come Q1 next year. And I think that's the obvious thing when you've ordered a pizza is when's it going to turn up? Where is it? It's the back to days of old. When everybody was ringing the store and saying, placing their order. Those that would be ringing back would be saying, "Where's my pizza?" So I think that GPS tracking is an example of customer facing. There's a benefit to the customer. There's a benefit to the store. They can see where the drivers are. You can literally, the brilliance of it is you can see that driver's coming back to that store now. Go and get that order ready. In fact, don't let him get out of the car or off the moped. Just hand it to him, and
right.
He's off. So it's speeding up the process. So we get the stuff to, get the orders to the customer quicker.
So let's go into marketing. You've been doing stuff with PPC and AI. Can you
so from AI, So I've done a lot of stuff with AI, and I think the first thing to say is we're doing it to improve the efficiency of our marketing. We're doing it to improve the CPAs, impression shares, the returns. We're not doing it for show. We're not doing to say, aren't we clever here? Our first port of call is, does this stuff work? Can we make it work? Can it improve on what we were doing previously? And from a PPC perspective, we're working with a company that's got a tool that does uses an AI tool that real-time bids on paid search and real-time bids from a sort of short and medium term as well. So you sort of give it a 2-3 month budget. But it works granular, in the moment, and it knows. Obviously, it knows time of day, day of week. It knows trends. It looks back at Domino's history, looks at weather, looks at a load of other factors, and then starts bidding and improving bidding or changing bidding, and optimizing. And actually, in the 6 months we've been using it, we've increased our PPC spend, and we've nearly halved our CPA, which obviously that doesn't normally go in the same direction. Increasing your spend to then halve your CPA wouldn't be the standard model. So really exciting.
So I know quite a lot about this technology, but can you help the audience understand kind of what goes on behind the scenes? So normally with PPC you have a team of humans with a bit of assistance with Google and writing, but this, as I understand it, you're creating a huge catalogue of search terms that a human wouldn't necessarily think of.
Correct, but it's not. You still need that team, by the way. I think the other thing with AI, I think the myth is that you sit there and think you just press a button and walk away, and I think AI is. You're the musician, the tool's the microphone, yeah. You're the artist, the AI tool's the paintbrush. You're not literally sat there just pressing a button and going, right, I'll come back in 3 months and see how it's going.
I was hoping we'd get onto music because we're both failed musicians, aren't we?
Yes.
Weren't you in a band that actually got famous and they ditched you or something? That's what you told me.
No,
when you were in Orange Juice.
I supported Pulp.
Supported Pulp. That's
in my early days, but the health warning there was they were massive about 2 years after I supported them. So yes, they were selling zillions of albums and we were floundering around.
Well, if we'd had any more time, we could have got the guitars out, which would have been painful for everyone. But anyway, that's fine. So how about social?
Yeah,
and
so
AI?
Separately,
Loaded question.
We're working with a Beatles, self-styled Beatle whiz, Tom Ollerton, to use AI in social DR. And so effectively we use this automated generation piece of tech, which we input all the assets. So let's say from a pizza perspective, we give it all the assets we can. So thumbnails of pizza off the website, brand shots of pizza, slate shots, top down, occasion shots, people eating pizza, all the assets we can possibly tip in, headlines, multiple prices, multiple deals, and the bit of tech comes up with numerous executions, pops them into space, measures the effectiveness, and then sort of self-serves the winners self-serves the winners.
I'm glad you think it's working, Tony. That is a big relief.
But
My consultancy.
Similarly, actually, similar results on a CPA perspective there, where we're doing more of it. We couldn't, but prior to this, we couldn't get digital display to work from an ROI perspective, so we were tipping money into other digital spaces. The AI stuff that we've got working again has dropped CPAs by about 35–40%. So we're in a really exciting space.
And I think I've been working with you guys for years in different roles, and I think the really great thing about Domino's is you've just got a massive can-do attitude about new technology. It's not like you kind of throw yourselves into it, whether it was chatbots or voice tech or AI PPC and now doing AI social media stuff. Like Carl or Kathy, the team just go, yes, let's do this. And I think that that's unusual for brands. But
I think the thing I've learned, back to the creative, the only thing you've got to ask yourself, whilst the tool is busy creating all these variants and serving up the best, you've got to ask yourself as a brand, what does the end output look like from a brand perspective, or is it just about efficiency? And what I mean is, when I was at Shop Direct way back when on DM, sort of physical letter direct mail, we used to test multiple creative executions on letters to customers and statements, and then have a white letter, a simple plain white letter as a control almost, And the white letter used to so often win and it had very little branding, and I suppose because the customer gets a white envelope with a white letter and thinks, I'll open it, it must be personal, And yet, do you want your brand looking like a white letter? Because it might be effective, but it's brandless, isn't it, almost? And so there is that. That's where you need human intervention and human sort of. You need to be scouring the winners and saying, is that what I want?
Yeah, it's tricky. We did a campaign for a brand a little while ago, and the creative that won, my client said, oh my God, I really didn't want that one to win.
Yeah, right.
It's my least favourite. And the one that was actually all beautiful and millennials having a great time performed awfully. So it is tricky. And I interviewed Penny Parnell from Not on the High Street, and she said that she was actually struggling with using AI and creativity because there was a company that did email subject line optimization, and they came back and said, look, these subject lines are completely killing it. But she said, well, they're fucking horrible. I hate them. Like that's not us. That's not the brand.
Not the brand, yeah.
So I think I think next year brands are going to sort of wrangle that. There's ruthless efficiency in dropping CPAs, but actually at the same time, if it's not delivering the brand job, we need to be careful.
You want both, obviously, but you might not get both. Yeah.
And so what else have you been doing? So that's social and PPC. That's great. That's going well. But you guys have got an incredible wealth of data about your customers. How are you using that now, and what's going to happen?
And I think we make a lot of use of it now, but I think that's the area we can do a load more. And over 3/4 of our sales are through devices. So we obviously have lots of stores, but the stores really are there in the locations to get pizza quicker. Whereas from a digital perspective, actually the order is placed, over 3/4 are through devices, as I say. So we've got a lot of data as a result. Using that data to inform email, SMS, push, etc., and the website journey, as in dynamically changing the website journey, I think is really key to us going forward. I think that's the opportunity.
And so what are you guys going to be focusing on next year? If we do this conversation again this time next year, what will you have liked to have worked on?
We're looking at, beyond, I said about GPS tracking, we're looking at dynamic delivery times. So again, using tech to really predict at the point that you place the order exactly when the pizza's going to arrive. So serving up real-time dynamic delivery times, beyond saying here's where your driver is, actually pinpointing that. I think that's what we're looking at. I think what I've just said about use of data is really key. I think we have all this data. Historically, I mean, if somebody's ordered the last 3 Fridays, they might order this Friday. That's a trend, isn't it? If somebody's last ordered a pepperoni passion, they're probably not a vegetarian. And so I think using that data to inform individually tailored comms, personalised comms to customers, I think is exciting, really exciting.
So I'm really in two minds about personalisation at the minute, because the idea is with personalisation that there's an ad, and everyone gets their own version of that ad. Like you get the West Ham version of the ad, I get the Man United or whatever. But like, how long is that going to be interesting to the customer? Like, you get an email that says, "Hey, it's raining outside." It's the first time you're like, "Oh my God, how did you know?" Like, that's so amazing. But is there a kind of limit to personalisation? When does it start to become creepy?
I think there is a point, you're right, where you know too much. But I mean, I think the sort of examples I would say that would work at scale, because you're probably going to pick stuff that works at scale, but feels personal. I think doesn't feel intrusive. It doesn't feel like we're Big Brother and we've got your data. But similarly, again, it's back to returns. I think if you can feel more relevant and personal with the customer, you're likely to get better response and you're likely to get better returns.
So I wasn't going to do this, but are you up for some questions from the room? Do we have any questions from the room? John Monday, shout it out. Just shout it out. You got a good voice. Come on. Right, I'll just, for everyone who didn't hear it, it's just like, so the question is about voice. How are Domino's going to make sure that they sound right with assistance either on chatbots or on voice tech? And because you have a CRM responsibility as well as a marketing one, how are you approaching voice?
I mean, we spend a lot of time on tone of voice and copywriting and making sure it's stuff sort of fits the Domino's brand, and we've set the brand strategy. So then how does that then apply from a tone of voice perspective? From a voice perspective, in terms of voice assistance, I think that's equally so, and I think that's a big growth area. Again, I watch how my kids use Google Homes, mini Google Homes, and how they respond to it, and how they get a piece of information, run off to the room and shout it into the Google Home. And
what do they do? What kind of stuff do they?
Well, anything they hear about, or they hear a song, right, I'll go and play that upstairs, run upstairs, shout the song, somebody will say, "What's the weather downstairs?" Bang, straight up the stairs, ask it, and how it's natural, I suppose. It's not, I've got to be honest, it's not natural for me to do that. It's interesting, but then I'm in this space. I suppose I've seen possibly the future in terms of how it'll just become normality, and I think that's really exciting. And I think the worry for brands is surely that a Google search serves you up a first page of results. A voice assistant probably serves you up one result, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And are you that one result? And I think that's why brands need to be dominant and ahead of well ahead of their competitors, so that on all those individual searches they are the served up result.
Do we have another question from the audience for Tony? We do. Great. So the question was, Domino's have done different campaigns where you can order a pizza by voice using a pizza emoji. What else is there?
I think this probably doesn't quite answer the question, but I think if you look at order, wait, deliver, eat, as in the flow from a customer's perspective, I think the one thing we haven't really done is wait, as in that wait time, how can we help the customer in terms of feed them interesting, and that's back to dynamic delivery times, and here's where your pizza is, and da-da. But also, how can we engage with them? What can we do to sort of wrap the whole experience together? So I think there are things we can do from an order perspective, but I think the interesting thing is that time period after the order and before it's delivered.
So we've got a minute left. This is my first ever live podcast. Thank you for being the perfect guest and making it incredibly easy
Thank you so much.
for me.
Thank you.
If anyone wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the preferred way?
At Tonoir on Twitter.
Tonoir.
Tonoir.
Okay.
Or at Domino's, you'll find, you'll work out the Tony.Holdway at domino's.co.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, fella.
Thank you.